Good evening, everyone. This is the final event for this evening with the winter warmer. Hello to everyone at home as well. So this evening we have three guests for you. Two of them are online, and they are Isobel O'Hare and MK. MK Chavez is part of the Cork San Francisco Twin City and is funded by Cork City Council. And we have one guest here in person, and that is Maurice Riordan. So we're going to have Isobel O'Hare first.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you again. It's an honor to read as part of this festival. I really appreciate being invited. And I'm excited to share space with MK Chavez for the first time in several years. She just changed her screen, but she was, appearing as like a fairy in another dimension full of magic and light. And I'm in my attic surrounded by all of the things that used to belong to my dead relatives. So I feel like there's a heaven and hell sort of theme going on here. I am going to read from a hybrid poetic memoir project that is sort of disjointed and difficult to define. I haven't written what I would consider like traditional poetry in a long time. So I'm writing this. There's no title, but the larger piece from whence it came is called Arc of a Diver. And it relates to grief, specifically the loss of my father 4 years ago. Saturn conjunct Pluto, adulthood, transformation, crisis. Saturn dislikes change and wants to freeze in place. Saturn ate his children in order to avoid being killed by them. Pluto, the child, burns the things that are no longer useful, and sometimes the things that are in the name of spiritual authenticity. This conjunction indicates a deep fear of patricidal annihilation. Uranus, differentiation and radical surprise, the growing pains of adolescence. What everyone thinks of as fun at the time and later looks at and says, wow, what hormonal insanity, what upheaval. I'm so glad I am now old, too old to become overpowered by an experience. So I will say I am separate from that now. I will say it again until I program my cells for individuation from the archetypes that have always bound me. These planets are generational. This is another way of saying that we are defined by the moment we are born. Capricorn, the father, ruled by Saturn with a strong Neptune streak. Spirituality, drugs, suicidal imagery, and action. A desire to escape reality to another place impossibly pure. Chiron squaring Neptune in the shape of a people simply hurt. Simply, people hurt in ways that we don't fix. We don't fix people who hurt because we don't know how. We don't know how, so we give them a bogus regimen and hope for a placebo epiphany. Rarely a brand new hurt, but an activation of an old injury or life sticking its finger into a fresh cut. Eighth house, darkness, drifting in the abyss. Poetry, I Ching. Confusion of mother, a stellium of domestic obsession. Death and rebirth, all of society's taboo material. Born into the house of secrets with the task of transmuting them. This makes a person powerful because truth is more important to them than morality. There is no truth, only memory. Loving someone not because they are good, but because they've shown you something they wouldn't dare show anyone else. A spiritual kink, a darkness that can be uniquely transmuted. Death or loss of self momentarily and the influx of another person. The sun is a father who is moody and changeable, tangled in money and power. A father as figure of the underworld, the realm typically associated with daughters, a force that pushes someone into knowledge or truth before they are ready, an action that is variably healing. Again, not about, it's about the truth of one's motivations. It's about the memory guiding one's sense of the truth. It's an epigenetic placebo. Eighth house is all or nothing. You're either dying or being born forever, constantly triggering oneself in order to provoke a peak experience, the seductive quality of grief. Eighth house wants power, but power doesn't belong to anyone. It only channels through you, depersonalized. Grief is at odds with instant gratification. Grief takes at least 3 years, and watch that first one, it's a doozy. All joy is weakened in this opposition. Saturn is a glass half empty. It's hard because that's what middles are. The middle child, the liminal space, the astral mediator. When nothing is working, remain an ambivalent channel. Be the middle. Mars will demand to do right now is find a group of really intense motherfuckers and spend as much time with them as possible. You may find yourself hovering in a lunar cycle of bonding and separation to prevent codependency. The tides need you, but do you really need the tides? You may ask yourself. Venus in Leo likes to be told how pretty and cool she is, likes to give and receive admiration, especially when it is exaggerated. How boring to be in love with someone who is easy to understand. A core aspect of spiritual communion is a lack of comprehension, a drunkenness void of substance. Before the death of the father, much of life was spent in epic battle with him, although the nature of that battle was ever shifting and the rules differed on each side. The father played an intricate chess game, always assuming you couldn't see his manipulations, while you gave a clumsy duck and weave performance that frustrated more than defeated him. A narrative steps in and gives it a go. Dear Father, you write in your diary. Dear Father who shot himself out of the narrative, I have imagined your last word to be fuck, as in fuck, this is it. Almost a laughing thing, a smirk toward the absurdity of any attempt at a life. I have imagined you shaking your head at the end because you know what is coming for me, but you won't be here to tell me or guide me through it. I imagine a kiss to the air as apology for all you will miss. The second half of my story, like the first, it is defined by your absence. 2 days before you died, I told you I was no longer mad at you for anything you'd ever done, despite decades of archetypal combats and epic disagreements, whatever Saturn and Pluto were orchestrating on our behalf. There were frustrations still, for sure. We were never going to stand full understanding of what or who it was either of us was looking at. But I was no longer mad at you. I had reached a bridge. When I said these words, I could hear you sigh on the other line. I am so glad to hear you say that, you replied, before changing the subject. Here is where the narrative starts to shatter. Later, when all the papers were signed and your things packed away and your once full living room empty of all your records and knickknacks and the errant Che Guevara ashtray I found hidden behind your computer, a godsend, because for the first time in years, I needed a cigarette and I'd run out to the gas station nearest your house and picked up a pack of cloves that were so perfect and so disgusting. That was when I got it. You were so glad because you didn't want to leave me behind in anger. I'm okay as long as you're okay, were some of your last spoken words. The narrative is not okay. The thing I am in my relationships with other people goes back to the experience in childhood of waiting at the window on Friday nights for my father to arrive. This little girl at the window is crystallized in time, never able to step away, always hoping for the ultimate validation of that almighty other, Saturn, the father. Saturn devours the narrative. I find myself recreating moments of profound pain in order to get back to how I felt when I first heard that he was gone. Grief itself has an addictive quality. You don't want to leave the person behind. You want to honor their death with your most explosive emotions. Over time, this becomes unsustainable, and your self-indulgence becomes apparent, and ultimately, the dead don't give a fuck about how we torment ourselves for their benefit. The narrative reaches the underworld. Every night, before we go to sleep in the guest room filled with plants, this is my father's bedroom door. Every morning, before we make coffee and eggs, she reopens it. She says it feels spooky otherwise, to leave his door open all night long, as if we're violating his privacy by leaving it open. Or maybe it's spooky because she imagines that without the door there's a barrier. His spirit might wander throughout the apartment in the darkness, press its ear against our door, and listen to us breathe in our sleep. I feel like I'm saying good morning and good night to him every day, she tells me. And I know it's because of his blood. Over the past week, its deep presence has haunted us both. The narrative is now a specter. In piecing together the timeline of my father's death, am I trying to make sense of it, trying to write my own story? Does putting all of the events in order make it meaningful? Does it make sense? What are the sense-making possibilities here? I want exact timestamps. What is the order of operations for a suicide? I want to know the precise moment he stopped circling the dining table, making additions to his various notes, placing the Post-its around the house. Did he put the letter to the police on the wall before he wrote the other letters? Or did he wait until he was ready to die to do that? Was he really ready after all? What was the precise moment? Did he say, okay, aloud to himself to demarcate the time between pre and post readiness? Where is the line, and can it be traced? Would anyone dare? The narrative cannot survive here. Months after my father's death, his coworker sends me an excerpt from one of his technical reports, striking me as strangely poetic. It's as if my father, failing to publish a book of his own in his lifetime, gravitated to this career so he could write startling depictions of the most mundane operations. Crazing of the dye surface, he writes in a report on dye casting. Crazing of the dye surface. I see the surface of my father's body when I viewed him at the funeral home. Crazing of the surface of the room, how it haunted me for months before I redefined it as a garden of roses. Crazing of the surface upon which one has died. I think of the spiderweb-like cracks his death has left across the surface of my own life, how I've broken open and become something unrecognizable to myself, how I feel simultaneously insane and more clear-sighted than ever. Crazing of the dye surface. I ask myself if that is what I do now. Am I crazing, crazed, crazing at the lack, crazing at death, cracking, crazed, crazing? One fingertip pressed to the center of the craze might push this entire mess in, a cosmic fontanelle. Thank you.
Hi, Isobel. Would you like to read any further?
Oh, nope, that's it for me. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Thanks very much for that powerful reading. So we'll move on to our next guest, who is M.K. Chavez, is an the author of Mothermorphosis, Dear Animal, and several chapbooks, including A Brief History of the Selfie. Chavez curates the reading series Lyrics and Dirges, and is co-director of the Berkeley Poetry Festival. Sorry if I didn't get that word right. She is a recipient of the Alameda County Arts Leadership Award, the Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Award, and the 2021 San Francisco Foundation Nomadic Press Literary Award. She's received fellowships from Hedgebrook, Caldera, Canto Mundo, Community of. Her most recent work can be found in the Academy of Poets Poem a Day series and at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco with the Voice of Trees projects. So can we have a big warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. The next best thing to being in Cork, Ireland is being in a room that's being sent through the waves to Cork, Ireland. So I'm just able to be part of this amazing event. I'm thrilled for many reasons. So I'm very grateful to Paul for the invitation. I'm really honored to be reading with both of my co-readers, and I am the biggest fan of Isobel O'Hare, and there's no reason anyone would know that. I'd love your reading. It was so powerful and intimate, and yeah, thank you so much. And I want to say that I actually own a chapbook written by Isobel, and there is a poem in it that uses the vacuum cleaner as a metaphor. And I want to just say it changed the way I never have looked at a vacuum cleaner the same way again. Isobel is really, truly one of my favorite writers. And so it's an honor to read with her. 20 minutes for poets, especially, is like dog year. Like we generally get like 8 minutes, 7 minutes. So it's really quite luxurious. And I have decided to read, I'm going to read from two different projects. One is called A Brief History of the Selfie, which was published as a chapbook by Alley Cat Books. And I'm going to read it cover to cover, actually, and then I'll read from a manuscript that I completed early this year called Blueprint for Mysterious Creatures. And I'll say a little bit more about that when I get to that point. Okay. A Brief History of the Selfie. The first selfie may have been a daguerreotype. The process was slow, as it is with most things that capture the soul. It was 1839, and Robert Cornelius was looking at himself. The selfie has been criticized with the same fervor that society criticizes young women. I love a selfie that speaks in tongues. It seems right that we should be our biggest fan in our own paparazzi. In 2012, selfie became a hashtag. Time magazine included selfie in its list of buzzwords that year. I started exchanging selfies with Lionel long before that year. The first selfies sent were of my feet, never bare. He sent selfies of his hands. We met in 1998. The Oxford English Dictionary added selfie to its canon and called it the word of the year. Lionel and I have exchanged selfies at ridiculous rates, and then lulls have occurred. We eventually break those lulls after accusing each other of being the one that stopped. There's a tenderness after each lull. Eminem took a selfie with the Mona Lisa. Albert Dürer painted his first selfie at the age of 13. Danny Trejo took a shirtless selfie on the DC state capitol steps after he voted. Kim Kardashian West is a selfie fiend, a major contributor to the sexy selfie, criticized for her selfies with the fervor previously mentioned. In the jungle, crested macaques found a nature camera and took selfies. The most stunning one of a female smiling directly at the viewer. The macaques took over 30 selfies in total. This act, of course, led to a legal debate as to who owns the image. The most controversial images in Western art history have been female nudes. At the unveiling of Manet's Olympia, women fainted, men beat the paintings with their umbrellas. It could have been Olympia's brazen gaze. The artists of female nudes most always men, often criticized as they're being placed into the canon for eternity. Of the criticisms of her naked selfies, Kim Kardashian West said, "Enough is enough." The average lifespan of a person is 27,000 days. They say the average millennial is expected to take 25,000 selfies during their lifetime. There have been concerns about beauty, the ruin of lives, and other human dilemmas. Is it narcissism or is it love? About whose gaze? This isn't new. Everyone has something to say about what people want to say about themselves. The wide angle of most cell phones distorts the nose and chin. I often wonder if the selfie isn't just another mirror. The mirror we know today was invented in 1835. It was also called the looking glass. Before the looking glass, we were still looking into still dark pools of water. There's a selfie of Lionel and me in a trailer in upstate New York. We look cold. We are wearing many layers of clothing. We are wearing matching plaid robes. We are standing in front of a heater. We look terrible. It was a beautiful day. Later the same day, we would take a walk. A pack of dogs would follow us and wake us from our hazy dream, like reality wakes us from a photographic journey. Women take more selfies than men. Men are the most critical of the selfie. One reporter said about the selfie, "Is there anything more annoying?" Don West took a selfie with his daughters, each of them holding soft serve cones after the verdict that made George Zimmerman a free man. He named the image #chilling. James Franco defended the selfie as a journalistic moment. Celebrities provide selfie tips, one for them and one for you. Communicate your feelings. Turn in a circle until you find the best light. No duck lips. A baby duck will imprint to an inanimate object if it is abandoned. To view Nan Goldin's selfies is to remember relationships will change you. A Cosmopolitan study warns, if you're a couple who takes too many selfies, it's a warning sign. There are no studies on couples who send selfies to each other. As we exchange selfies, Lionel and I discuss aging, the parts of our bodies that we love and the parts that we hate. Sometimes he is in New York and sometimes Vienna. I like him better when he's in Vienna. In selfies, non-professional photographers show a bias for the left cheek. Selfie is an acceptable word in Scrabble. Death by selfies include electrocution, falling from staircases and cliffs, shark attacks, car crashes, and being hit by trains, wounds inflicted by handguns. Of those who die from selfies, 75% are men. Lionel and I have exchanged selfies for 20 years. It's our language. Love of the selfie is mercurial. Some say the selfie is dead. Some say selfies have a structural anatomy. Lionel and I suspect selfies have a life of their own. Okay. I'm going to read next from Blueprint for Mysterious Creatures, which is a hybrid, kind of like Isobel. I actually have I like to joke that I've been having a torrid affair with lyric essays. I come from just writing poetry, but I have also, like Isobel, kind of really find myself in a place where I am definitely crossing genres and really enjoying the beauty of hybrid writing. Blueprint for Mysterious Creatures is a hybrid collection. I guess the other thing that I'll say about Blueprint for Mysterious Creatures is that it is in addition to being a hybrid collection, it is an examination, an exploration of race in the United States through study of American horror films. I was a mixed race zombie. I was not born a relentless creature of resurrection. If I could, I would eat from the top of my head. I would feed the seventh chakra, that mysterious lotus, 1,000 petals and 20 layers of 50 more petals. Once I was so invisible that I ate my way into existence. I consumed the bigot cashier from Joanne Fabrics, the man at Whole Foods who wanted to cut me in line. I ate the wolf whistler and his wife. Then I said, I am pure consciousness because my lotus ate your lotus. My lotus eats fear. My lotus lingers at the gateway of history, Loving versus Virginia, liminal skin, 1 drop or more. My brother named me dark magic. My uncle sang brown sugar at me. Children of the emerging paradigm, who will pick you for their team? My lotus has eaten every inquiry into mixed race. My lotus mestiza, my lotus in Spanglish, my lotus in Salvi Noir, my lotus in Afro-hyphenate, my lotus eating the binary and then belching. Lotus of mystery ethnic and not enough boxes. Lotus of multiracial multiverse. The most terrifying part of the movie is never what you think. What if zombies are just misunderstood? Diorama 1, Sorrow of Zombies. General Hernandez Martinez responded to the rise of fascism in Europe enthusiastically. He wrote in 1933, he wrote immigration limitation into law, prohibiting the entrance of Africans, Asians, and Arabs into El Salvador. My Black grandfather devoured by my father's internalized hatred. How my father never spoke of his side of the family. Retrospective, Day of the Animals. It's a warning from 1977. Main characters include Eagle, Cougar, Michael, and Sarah playing a native guide, Leslie Nielsen playing a jerk who takes off his shirt in the rain, millions of aerosol cans, the ozone layers, a Beverly Hills mother who says she prefers a civilized environment, rattlesnakes, jokes around the campfire about being scalped, owls, a professor, the army rats, abandoned tents, German shepherds and wolves, a news reporter lady, the weather, a football player, the campfire itself. Bear eats man, shake of a tail feather. This is a revenge story. Digests of the bear in midsummer. The practice of crawling in and out of the bear's skin. The way in which grandmother begged, don't get a tattoo. Your dark skin is already working against you. The year the bear made friends with the man who owned the corner store. He liked to say, "I like the color of your skin." The bear found reasons to visit the store, cigarettes for father, and Jolly Rancher candies to stain the tongue, and occasional milk. It was the first time the bear's color was not a warning or a resentment. The iris opens and opens. The bear is fictional space. The world of midsummer is an ellipsis. Here, in this whiteness, my blackness is pure macula. Bear, a light in my eye. Have a couple of family-oriented poems to read you, specifically mothers, I guess. Retrospective, Eyes of My Mother. The sound of mother's eternal eye, which lives in a ganglion in my gut. Mother is all-seeing teacher of dark anatomy and a well-trained surgeon. Father as embodiment of distance. He keeps an eye on me. An optical disorder. Who, after all, is made for the monochromatic life? There's never a mention of a hyphenated identity. We open and close like eyes, like white mother and father who will not say he's Black. Me, as chiaroscuro, a folktale unraveling. In this film, the moment of impact never hits the screen. Well, this is not so much about my mother anyway, but maybe a little homage for mothers. Letter from Rosemary's Baby. In her red room, I emerge among poppy heads that populate the wallpaper. Mother dreams that her bed is floating on a vast ocean. I watch how they undress her, this vessel, this woman undone. I pick her because she's sacrilegious and sleeping with Satan. I approve of her short hair and mini skirts. My mother is eating raw meat again and upsetting the neighbors. I am the unexpected, the leading role in hot pink. I'm mass hysteria, the little nightmare, men making decisions about women's bodies. I'm primal, baby gaze. Mother loves me, like Mary who didn't need Joseph. I bring woe wherever I go. I love a single mother, all to myself. I have two more for you. One very small one. I feel like I couldn't write a book that involved horror films and leave Jaws out. Jaws. The tension goes on for 81 minutes before we actually see the creature. Is it vagina dentata or is it Maybelline? Consider fine china, a spiked Venetian chastity belt. And I thought I would end with kind of an uplifting poem. The Two Marias. Demon in my trachea, shining her transformation into a rite of passage. Damon as an interrogation of childhood and mother's schizophrenia. Demon as woman part that turns its head 360 degrees. Demon is vomiting again and making a mess. When asked to clean up, scratches, help me, onto my belly. Damon as little helper. Demon in my hand, stealing money from the donation box, flipping off the nuns, spray paint on the side of the church. There is no God. Demon stirring the pot of anxieties, theological horrors, castration scissors, and disorder of the nerves. Demon buying pot. The boys roll joints for her so that Demon can buy school lunch and pretend to be normal. Demonic possession lighting up my mouth, screening obscenities at doctors and priests, the cult of domesticity in disarray. Father wept and threw himself from a window just to avoid the conversation. Demon in my urinary tract, taking a hot piss on patriarchy and watching the steam rise, the rise of feminine monstrosity. Demon in the canal, third eye that lives between my legs. Damon says, Captain Howdy is waving at the world. Thank you so much for listening.
Huge thank you, MK Chavez. It was really fantastic. So our final poet for tonight is Maurice Riordan. Maurice Riordan's most recent collection is Shoulder Tap. Previous books include Word from the Loki, Floods, The Holy Land, and The Water Stealer. He's received the Michael Hartnett Award and the Cholmondeley Award. Born in Cork, now in London. Please have Maurice Riordan. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it's great to be here, and thank you, brave souls. Yeah, and you, Isobel, and MK, for wonderful, intense, imaginative readings. And thanks, of course, to Paul Casey for enabling it all, and for I'll get closer. Sorry about that. Shoulder Tap. I read from the latest collection. You know that kind of trick where somebody taps you on the shoulder, you spin around, and there's nobody there. So it's a kind of it's a practical joke, but it's got a little bit of the sinister element to it. I think it's unexpected. It's a little bit sinister, but it's also, of course, a comedy. So that's kind of the title. And if you want to have 5 good minutes on YouTube, just look it up. There are some good pieces about it. So I begin with childhood, the changeling. After they found me hiding in a fork of the yew, I climbed into the chimney of the derelict house. Curled in the bend, I saw the blue hole of the sky. I liked silos, undersides of bridges, fields of dense maize. I clambered onto bales to smoke against the barn roof. Later, I lay down in a high-sided trailer and went to sleep. When I woke, I was out on the bare dunes under stars. At school, I lurked in the ball alley after lights out, or in the chapel by the glow from the tabernacle. I thought, you can hide in galleries in foreign cities, in bars in daytime, even in a swimming pool. There are hours you can spend loosely tethered to a lover. There's the solace of watching over a sleeping baby, the peace at night in the company of a dead body. I rented a car so I could kind of travel out to the countryside to visit my siblings. I was doing that today, and everything has changed. And then also kind of nothing has changed. You come to a crossroads of to kind of a notoriously dangerous bend. And some kind of muscle member remembers the camber of the road. So that's the kind of terrain of this poem. It's called The Surly Boy. I've parked the hire car next to pumps and wait for the bell to chime, and out come the surly, fair-haired boy, to whom I'll shout, fill her to the brim with juice. Over the road, a curtain twitches in the early breeze. Trish must have spotted me and's thinking I've time to change my top. But hey, here she is at the car window, leaning in. Nice Jeep, she's saying, and there's a hop tonight in Charleville. A cloud of musk afloat in the valeted tar. But the boy's gone to his supper. That shop looks shut for the night. And now the padlock's on, and hey, the mobile's lost its ruby O. Somewhere I must have known the surly boy took wing to farm sheep in New South Wales, and Trish moved to the glebe. Under the hard standing, the tanks, a cave of fumes. I half a mind to jemmy the manhole cover and get that old time whiff of sulphur up my nose. The narcissist. I've never been the type for looking in mirrors. I check a mole, I shave, I wore contacts in my 20s. I had a girlfriend back there who liked us to pose full length. Better than porn, she said. But I couldn't look, not for long. It's because of your emptiness within, she whispered. I was the narcissist. And it's true, all my life, I've harbored the selfie in my head, one that's blurry and soft focus. It must have been implanted early on by my mother. I mean, something cherubic, but essentially featureless. And though it's aged, it has kept its original nullity. Do you psychoanalysts have an angle on this? Is it mellifluously dissected in Gallic abstraction? Whenever I'm caught off guard in a hotel or new bedroom, it comes as a shock I'm in the presence of another male who is florid and badly proportioned, but not repulsive. This morning, in a dream that came when I dozed off between tweets, I found myself high above the diagonal with that ex in an attico, my old girlfriend who trained me to love food and sip cognac, to appease lapdogs and night porters, wear shades, relax in a fast car. She brought along her props in a little crocodile case. The music was on, Bowie, I think, though the sound was distorted. I could hear her intakes of breath and smell her warm skin. Then I opened my eyes as instructed, or dreamed I did. I understood what I saw in the mirror was my corpse. Back in the old days, BC, we used to go on summer holidays, didn't we? When my kids were small, I used to go for long sojourns in Canada, and then you come back, you know, and various things would have befallen the house, you know, especially the organic aspect of the house. Mold is the title of this poem, and it's got a little quote from Freeman Tyson. Nature in the biological realm has a tendency to be fanciful. The mold on this 6-week-old tomato sauce has grown a green merino fleece with glints of blue and orpiment and now I blow over it a sheen of luminescence like an uncut hayfield. I hesitate before ditching it, as I would a goldfish or the drooping cactus. This isn't just food gone bad, but an organism with, I think, genes and enzymes, far more than the chemistry of rot or ferment. It quadrupled while we were off overexposing our pink skins, jumping from the dock, whooping it up around the barbecue, loving each other, then rowing about loos and ice trays before hugging again. Just about keeping the lid on the id as our guts settled into microbial harmony and we grew back into the old us, swearing and farting in chorus, gruntled swine amongst God's simpler creatures. While here in the fridge dark, something mycelial, artful got underway, with its own notion of culture determined by its sensitive to initial conditions. And now, how gratuitous and pretty the outcome. There we lay, splayed on the dock. Our skins may be experimenting with UV, but young forever we were. Here, the pure carry on, no plan or purpose of the plan, obscured in riddles of symmetry and equilibrium. I blow again across the summer meadow. I take a pick, want to post, clickable, squiggly, like a late pollock, and sort of tasty looking, though it would kick up a spectacular shitstorm in the jet-lagged family gut. So, nice try, mate. Down you go in a swirl of rainbows into carbolic suds and boiling water, a foul dibbuck sputtering in the plug hole for a fiery moment. Then that rattle as you're sluiced beyond the U-bend. Something a little sweeter. I did take a picture of that mole, actually. I don't do social media though, so you won't find it on Instagram. This one is called Sainthood. This fledgling, a house or tree sparrow, shows no fear of me, perches on the trellis, then onto the rain barrel, far too close, giving shrill cheeps and tilting its bud head with an inquiry at each cheep. Does it want to be fed, or just being chummy? Neither for sure. Poor creatures lost, barely fledged. A hormone hasn't yet kicked in. This is it, flight, distances, blue, open sky. I keep dead still, fancying myself a bit of a Saint Francis. And indeed, the bird soon flies over and hovers against the wall of my chest, picking at it, thinking maybe there it will find a nest. I had a visitor a couple of years ago, or a visitation maybe I should call it, from a famous character. I'll just read the poem and then I'll tell you the story. I was woken by the leader of the free world, flying over Willesden on his way to Hertfordshire. For once I was having a nice dream, a gig or party with loads of youngsters in docks and distressed jeans. I was telling them a joke with a hilarious pun on turnip. It doesn't translate, but it had the room in stitches. If you had been looking in the upstairs window, I seldom draw the curtain these clear winter nights, you'd have caught the angelic smile on my sleeping face, and maybe found yourself smiling back like my father used when he hovered above my cot for me to wake. Now the helicopters are thundering right overhead, and I'm wide awake and scowling. My father's turned away in angry disappointment. I get out to watch the leader of the free world become a silent bird-like dot in a glorious dawn sky. Yeah, that's dated the 4th of December 2019 when Trump visited the UK. And he stayed someplace out in Hertfordshire, and so Air Force One used to kind of fly out from London. And for some reason, well, I suppose for simplicity reason, they used to follow the railway line, which goes just past my house or close by my house. So I was indeed woken up this splendid blue morning, like this morning actually, yeah, by Air Force One flying incredibly low, yeah, temptingly low. I was only armed with a poem. But I think it might, hopefully it's prophetic. Yeah, hopefully it's prophetic. I think MK finished with something uplifting, and I do my best to emulate. It's a poem called Laudation. It's a word I came across in Auden actually, but it's from Lauds, you know, and we're in an ex-convent, and I guess the nuns might have sang lauds in this very room. You know, it's the first office of the day. And we sing to praise and the day, you know, the light coming back. You know? So yeah, this is to the nuns, and to us all, yeah, to us all, and especially to the saint here who's managed to bring it all together, Saint Paul. Okay, I'll finish with this and then I'll go. Laudation. Of all sights, a new moon. Of all smells, bread. Of all surfaces, skin. Of all sweet sounds, the mourning dove and the sleeping child. Of all my journeys, the short cut from school through Buckley's Glen. Of all other journeys, the Greyhound bus at night into Manhattan. Of cities, Jerusalem. Of modes of transport, the pony and car. Of the neglected virtues, shyness. Of the celebrated, hospitality. Of harmless vices, the lie-in, the painted toe, the keepsake. Of solitary vices, night out and a piss in moonlight. Of the social pastimes, gossip among cultivated friends. Of the cultivars, either the grape or the apple. Of the apples, the Wiccan pippin. Of cults, the Eleusinian. Of all that delights the cultivated mind, letter writing. Of all jokes, the one about the two thieves. Of practical jokes, the shoulder tap, oldest and most cruel. Of all of Job's afflictions, maybe the boils. Of terms of abuse, hypocrite. Of terms of praise, musical. Of beverages, tea. Of all that coarsens the palate, eating beef. Of ingenious devices, the search engine and the zip. Of all that thrives among Satan's noisome progeny, the rock drill and mosquito. Of the proofs of God's love, the crow. Of all that testifies to the sway of evil, the white lie. Of the forgotten sins, calumny, which thrives. Of the erotic side pleasures, the smile and the text. Of rare and elusive flavors, sweet Sicily and the chanterelle. Of domesticated creatures, the pig or goose. Of all times, the hour before sunrise. Of all fears, the lump Of all places, here and now, of sweet sounds to wake to the morning dove. Thank you very much.
Big thank you to our guests for wonderfully engaging readings. We've got some time for questions, and I was thinking about what maybe to ask you. So, you know, we live in a busy world with social media and entertainment and jobs and parenthood, and you know what I wanted to ask was like where writing fits in with that. Is it a place you go for refuge, or is it a place you go to escape or to connect with yourself? Like, what is writing in the big picture of your life?
I guess I'll answer that one first. It's funny you bring that up because as I sit here about 7 months pregnant, and I will be redefining, I think, how writing fits into my life. At the moment, it's something I do when my boss isn't looking, and, you know, in other sort of stolen moments. And I was just thinking about this earlier today, that I imagine my writing will just get weirder and weirder because I'll probably be scribbling things when I'm up at 3 a.m. breastfeeding my baby. So it'll all just be sleep deprived and strange. So that's my answer for right now. It's a great question.
I feel like in many ways, my writing is, kind of meets the criteria of addiction. So I have spent many years working with folks who use drugs. And one of the things that we say is that when you start to organize your life around the drugs, and, you know, it's a sign that maybe things are unbalanced. I definitely organized my life around writing, both the business of writing, but also writing itself. And I, just now thinking about how it really, like, I'll write, but I also have to feed the writing in so many ways. So it almost feels a little like an octopus. It touches like all the different parts of my lives and of my life, and then comes back in to kind of feed the writing again. So it's hard for me to separate where it is. I certainly can say, like, I write between these hours and these hours, but really it feels like it's woven throughout my life. There's no like separation.
What a beautiful way to put it. Maurice, would you like to
I love that idea of the octopus. Yeah. Tentacular effect. I mean, it's too big a question for me, I'm afraid, but literally I try to fit it in early in the day, just to catch my brain before it kind of properly wakes up, I kind of believe, I suppose, if a poem works anyway, it's a kind of a waking dream. So that's literally, and yeah, I guess I would like to think that it's some sort of expression, or some sort of, but projection as well. It's not just expression, it's also to broadcast it, as it were, in some way, into the language, into the tradition, with a great deal of good luck, or misplaced ambition, perhaps, yeah, but that, to just try, but to get it from the whole being, from the sleep, from the half awake body and brain, I think that's kind of that's where I kind of start out from. Then, yeah, I mean, I might have to sweat it out afterwards, but that's where I feel it. As MK was saying, it is an octopus inside me, hopefully, inside of each of us. Yeah.
Thanks, Maurice. Did anyone have any questions they wanted to ask? Okay. Look, tonight it was an absolutely fantastic reading, and we really, really enjoyed it. And can everyone please give them a big, big round of applause?